Lviv, Ukraine, Russia announced yet another ceasefire and a handful of humanitarian corridors to allow civilians to flee Ukraine starting Monday, but previous such measures have fallen apart and Moscow's armed forces continue to pummel some Ukrainian cities with rockets even after the announcement. A day earlier, hundreds of thousands of civilians attempting to flee to safety were forced to shelter from what Ukrainian officials said was Russian shelling in cities in the center, north and south. Ahead of a third round of talks planned for Monday, the Russian Defense Ministry said a ceasefire would start in the morning, and safe passages would open for civilians from the capital of Kyiv, the southern port city of Mariupol, and the cities of Kharkiv and Sumy. Some of the evacuation routes, however, would funnel civilians toward Russia or its ally Belarus, unlikely destinations for many Ukrainians who would prefer to head toward countries on the western and southern borders. A senior Ukrainian official rejected those proposals. It wasn't immediately clear if fighting would stop beyond the areas mentioned or when the ceasefire would end. Hopes were dim that the latest round of talks would yield any breakthroughs. Well into the second week of war, Russia's plan to quickly overrun the country has been stymied by fierce resistance. Its troops have made significant advances in southern Ukraine and along the coast, but many of its efforts have become stalled, including an immense military convoy that has been almost motionless for days north of Kyiv. The fighting has sent energy prices surging worldwide, stocks plummeting, and is threatening the food supply and livelihoods of people around the world who rely on farmland in the Black Sea region. The death toll from the fighting, meanwhile, remains unclear. The UN says it has confirmed just a few hundred civilian deaths but also warned that the number is a vast undercount. Police for the Kharkiv region said Monday that 209 people have died there alone, 133 of them civilians. The Russian invasion has also pushed 1.5 million people to flee the country, creating what the head of the UN refugee agency called the fastest-growing refugee crisis in Europe since World War II. But many others have become trapped in cities under fire. Food, water, medicine and almost all other supplies were in desperately short supply in the southern port city of Mariupol, which an estimated 200,000 people are trying to flee but where an earlier ceasefire collapses. Russia and Ukraine have traded blame for the failure. The Russian task force said the new pledge for humanitarian corridors was announced at the request of French President Emmanuel Macron, who spoke to Russian President Vladimir Putin on Sunday. Macron's office said he asked for a broader end to military operations in Ukraine and protections for civilians.